recording in case in case we miss any gold, you know.
Yeah, you better. Let me turn off my heater. It's hot in the house.
Hey, no worries, man. So, God, yeah, it's been a minute ever since. Like, do you know the last time I saw you, we walked past each other on the stairs in the Forum when you were on the Bay Area Strikes Back tour, and you were icing one of your elbows.
Yeah.
And that's like, wow, so much has happened since then.
I know, like bags of ice and shit to like deal with the swellings and ligament and tendon damage, you know. But I'm, as far as elbows, I'm doing much better now. You know, I went through a lot of therapy this year to like overcome it. You know, they're completely shredded. Years of repetitive stress injuries, you know. And years of cortisone injections to like mask the pain. And you know, people say, how many you had? And I'm like, I don't know.
Shit. I mean, those things fucking hurt.
They hurt like hell. Yeah. But, you know, when they would work, I'd get like 6 months of like pain-free guitar playing, but the damage is still being done, you know. And because I'm not in pain, I'm like putting more stress on them. And I finally got some MRIs done, and they were like, the results were bad, especially my left. It like, you know, it sounded like I needed like reconstructive surgery, you know.
Yes.
But I have a friend who's like a team hand doctor for the San Francisco Giants, your baseball team. And his elbow person said, no, he can avoid surgery, just needs like extensive physical therapy. So
wow,
you know, a lot of like sitting there with like 2-pound barbells, you know, like that, you know. Little pink ones, you know, like my wife would use like for working out, and I'm sitting there like, oh God, I hope no one sees this. But, you know, but it worked. But you know, I'll never be 100%, you know, but it's about manageable at this point.
Yeah, it's but that's the danger with any kind of pain meds, isn't it? It masks the pain, but the damage is still being done.
You're still doing the very same things that caused the pain in the first place. You're just not feeling it anymore. It'd be like, imagine if you could take a pill that masked your entire feeling for fire, you know, and it doesn't hurt. You put your hand in over the burner on your stove, it's still sizzling and burning up. You just don't feel it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I was warned off a particular kind of throat lozenges way back in the day. The doctor said, look, don't take those and then go out and sing, because what they do is they just numb your throat. So you're gonna wreck it.
Damaging the vocal cords.
Yeah, you're just gonna wreck it and not know, and then, you know, all of a sudden things will go very wrong.
Exactly.
But of course, well, first question, how's Tom?
Tom's doing great. I mean, we just a little bit over a month ago, we played our first show back together, and it was like so awesome. It was almost spiritual, you know?
Yeah.
And we just did a video shoot over the weekend for the new record. And, you know, that requires you to sit there and like, at least like pretend like you're playing, but it's still playing, you know, like, because, you know, you can't just like pantomime the hits. And, you know, he did that for like, you know, several hours straight. He's doing great.
And I mean, I've seen you say it elsewhere, but I've got to say it as well. I got the album about a week ago. Label sent it to me, and it's like, wow, Tom's performance is just—it's
insane.
I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, this sounds like 24-year-old Tom.
Yeah, right. I mean, he really stepped up and delivered, you know, and it. You know, he didn't know he had cancer while we were doing the album, but he knew he had unexplained weight loss, you know, like, you know, Tom would say, you know, I'm eating normally the same way I do, and I'm losing weight. And, you know, he lives in the mountains, and, you know, your mountaintop doctor isn't quite the place to get diagnosed for that kind of stuff. You know, where you go for your basic, not hard to diagnose sick illnesses and injuries, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, it's incredible when you think what he had growing in his stomach, you know, while he was doing this record, because he destroys it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's kind of inspiring. I mean, I'm a fucking singer, and I find it inspiring
to me for sure. I'm wildly inspired by Tom Honey, and, you know, I always have been. You know, he's like my partner in crime since I was 17 years old. But you know, seeing what he did and what he's done to get through this. And I'm, you know, when I thought I'd have to have surgery to reattach some tendons in my left elbow, I was terrified. You know, I've never been under the knife, and he went under the fucking knife, you know, they removed his whole stomach, you know, and he faced it with fucking great aplomb, you know. He's a pretty inspirational guy.
It's incredible, but I'm kind of really interested to see what the next Exodus tour bus is going to be like, because you've got Tom who's going to have a complete diet change. You've stopped drinking. It's you know, it's going to be like a kind of health food bus, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, Tom can eat pretty much everything he always ate, but he has to eat in multiple meals, smaller intervals, you know, because he doesn't, he can't like sit down and eat some cowboy ribeye, you know, where they put your name on the wall if you finish it, you know.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the space for it, you know, but over time, you know, it'll expand and it'll be more like, you know, a traditional size stomach, you know, closer to it. But, you know, yeah, and, you know, like as he says, he's a cheap date because, you know, he'll have a glass of wine, but it's kind of gets absorbed immediately.
Right.
You know, so, you know, he can't sit there and like do a shot of Jaeger while he's, you know, drinking a, you know, fistful of beers, because, you know, it's going to hit him immediately. I mean, he'd be down immediately, asleep. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, we have Lee and the crew and they drink, and Jack doesn't drink, neither does Steve, myself, and Tom barely does, you know. I mean, a glass of white wine with dinner, that's about it.
Yeah. And well, your story, did you cut back, or did you just go, right, fuck it, that's it?
I said fuck it, that's it. You know, I'm just like millions of people worldwide, I was a victim of the pandemic, you know. You know, on tour, I always maintained and never like hit the hangover stage. Maybe once in a 5-week tour, I'll wake up with a little bit of a headache, you know, and that's like one night when we decided to have disco party and start cranking some funk music and like drink a few extra beers. But then I'd come home and I'd only drink when I was like watching some sports or having some people over, a couple of beers. I go out to a show, have like 2 beers.
Yeah.
And then I found myself with nothing but idle time. You know, I live kind of in the woods now, and I'd sit outside. It's beautiful. It's summer. I'm surrounded by oak trees, and I just start drinking, you know.
Right.
You know, drinking like, you know, 12, 13 beers. And I was drinking these like double, triple IPAs, 10, 11% alcohol, you know.
Yeah.
You know, because I was always a beer snob, you know, like, you know, get out my proper glass for whatever beer I was drinking, you know.
Yeah.
And it just got to the point where I was getting depressed when I got drunk, you know.
Yeah.
I wasn't happy anymore, you know, because I mean, my whole livelihood had been taken away from me.
Yeah.
I'm feeling the same stress and strain as everybody else, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I figured, man, I quit smoking. I quit doing drugs years ago, you know, like almost 20 years ago. You know, I could live without the alcohol. It's no big deal. I mean, I still drink non-alcohol beers, and there's some really good ones out there, you know.
Yeah. And
You know, it's the taste of beer that I would miss. I don't miss the buzz, you know, and it also has a strong placebo effect.
Well, but also I think when you stop drinking for a period of time, you discover loads of things about your body as well. It's like, you know, I quit drinking for like 6-9 months, whatever, a couple of years ago, and I what I found was like I could just eat anything I wanted and not put on weight, because it's like that alcohol, those alcohol calories can't be digested.
Exactly. And you know, when you're drinking 13 beers, that's like, you know, several like Big Macs a day, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, I lost weight without doing anything different.
Yeah.
You know, skin cleared up, you know, and I've always considered myself lucky to like, I'm a pretty well-aged 57-year-old. You know, I don't look like my age.
Yeah.
I've aged well. I always said it's all the preservatives from all the chemicals I used to do. You know? I'm like a fucking Twinkie, you know.
Yeah.
My wife calls me a freak of nature. I got no gray hair on my head, you know, like, you know, I get it in my beard, but like,
yeah,
you know, but you know, time to take care of myself, you know, and get healthier, you know, because all around me, I've got people dropping, you know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
found out this weekend, one of my best friends from high school had a heart attack in his sleep, you know. I don't even
Yeah.
think he smoked, you know, just crazy shit.
Yeah, and well, we're getting to that age. We're getting to
Yeah,
that age. I mean, a few months ago, we lost Ian, our bass player, our original
yeah,
original bass player.
yeah.
Um,
Sucks.
and that's yeah, it's kind of like as I went to school with a guy, and it's like it took me weeks to get my head around it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And with Tom's cancer battle, it really like casts a bright light on your own mortality, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
big time.
I don't feel indestructible anymore. When I
Yeah,
was young, I felt like nothing could kill me and I'm bulletproof, you know, and now I don't, you know, and it's scary. You know, like out of all my like lifelong friends, I'm talking from kindergarten up, you know, I have, you know, a couple left and one I'm in contact with all the time. And it's always like, did you hear this guy died or this guy died? You know, one of our childhood friends. And like, fuck, man, you know, I've reached out to him on Saturday, you know, when I got the news of another one of our old friends. And it's just crazy. It's
yeah,
crazy, you know. But
yeah.
you know, I'm gonna do whatever I can to prolong this ride I'm on. You know, I'm not ready to get off. You know, I've got children and grandchildren. I'd like to have great grandchildren someday, you know.
And yeah, ultimately it's about staying productive as well, isn't it? And just like doing what you do, doing what makes you happy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, and it keeps me young. I mean, I think if I
Yeah,
had to
without
like
a doubt.
do something different with my life, it'd probably age me rapidly. But I mean, as far as like, you know, my body feels old as fuck most every single day. I'm dealing with arthritis. You know, my hands are super stiff. My knees are really shitty. My ankles are not good. My back is a disaster, but my neck is good. And that's what really matters is I could still whip that thing around, you know. And I know a lot of people who've had neck surgery and shit, you know, like, and
Yeah,
you know, as long as that one still works, and as long as the fingers could still get around, even though they, you know, get pretty stiff on some days, you know, I'm happy. You know,
well,
I'll pick my battles. You know, I'm like a car
yeah.
with a good engine, and all the suspension is shitty. You know, and the tires are bald.
Don't go out in the rain.
Yeah, don't go out in the rain, watch the
Yeah,
bumps, you know, and ruts and potholes, you know, but the
yeah,
engine starts every time. So that's the important part, you know.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think being in a band keeps you young as well. Hanging out with guys playing music, and just once when you get together, you're all still kids again.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we still laugh when someone farts and all that shit, you know.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
still have the mentality of like 15-year-olds and we still absolutely enjoy each other's company. You know, a lot of bands been around this long. They don't do that. And like when we're out on a day off, we're all going out to dinner. We're all like, what's everybody doing? Let's go get a steak or something, you know, and we're just laughing the whole time and we enjoy it. It's awesome.
yeah, yeah. And I have to say, man, your performance on the new album, wow, that's like it. That sounds like Gary Holt saying, "Do you know what? I'm going to lay down some solos that are going to be definitive Gary Holt solos, because the lead your lead work on the album is just it's phenomenal."
You know, I tried, you know. I mean, you know, like, you know, to me, it's always about the riff anyway. You know, the solos is just like, that's just like candy sprinkles on top of an ice cream cone, you know.
Yeah,
Like if I had to give one up, obviously solos are gone. You know, there's a million better lead guitar players than me, but I worked really hard on it. You know, the process of recording this album, you know, up in the mountains in our own studio, you know, we're able to like work without any like hourglass and watching the sands tick away, you know.
yeah,
And you know, we went in, we're extremely excited and extremely hungry, and you know, and we're not faking this shit, you know.
yeah,
We do it, you know, we're not like throwing a fast song on because you know the laws of metal averages say we have to, you know. We like
yeah.
going fast, you know, we still enjoy it, you know.
Yeah, Yeah, and you're right. It is, yeah, it's all about the solo. I mean, sorry, it is all about the riffs, but it's also about the songwriting and the songcraft. And I just think that for me, one of the beautiful things about getting older, as we were saying earlier, like physically, but from a songwriting point of view, it's like, you know, if you don't get better as you get older, there's something fucking wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I've always said that we learn from our mistakes, and to call any songs mistakes is kind of like the maybe the wrong choice of words, but you just kind of learn a little bit, like, everybody knows that I have a tendency to, like, I'm gonna follow the song where it goes, whether it's 10 minutes or 11 minutes, And on this album, we didn't intentionally try to make anything shorter. It's just uh Tom and I were bashing out the songs, and when the song was done, it was done. And a lot of them on this album are shorter. We just it wasn't until the album was done I realized that hardly any of the songs start off with just your big guitar riff and bunch of breaks, bump, 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 and
Yeah,
then the riff drums kick in, and then you go 8 times, and then another break, and like half the songs it's like 1, 2, 3, go, and we're just in.
yeah, yeah. And it's but there's also kind of like, there's dynamics there. It's not just like beating you over the head all the time. There's clearly there's different moods that, lyrically, there's like so many topics covered in there.
Yeah, I mean, dynamics have always been super important to Exodus's music.
Yeah.
I want everything to have what I've always called that flash pot moment, even though we don't have flash pots, that dynamics boom, where just you'd expect for the explosion to happen if we were AC/DC and we had cannons on stage, or shit like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's dynamics, that you don't want the song to be a flat line. You want it to, like, have peaks and valleys and explosive stops and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And but also that kind of, for me, there's the for me, one of the standout tracks is the track that you've got, Lunatic Liar, with Rick doing a solo on it as well. That's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And I'd seriously put that in put that up there as one of the best songs I think you guys have ever done.
I think it's amazing. That song was the one song on the album that was a lot of work. It was hard, just the recording of it. It had Tom, myself, and Steve Laguti, our engineer, sitting there, like, in a productive way, butting heads, trying to figure out where, like something went wrong, like while we were like tracking it. And I was like, no, because something wasn't lining up right, from when I did the scratch track and when we tracked it. And like, we ended up figuring out, but that one, was that one song that every album has where it's like, you're like, kind of like getting tense a little bit and trying to like get to that finish line on it. Yeah. But the end result is like, it's a monster.
Yeah, it is an absolute monster, but also it's like that. It's just such a cool little intro as well. I mean, obviously you've got like Costa del just before it, which is like, you doing some beautiful noodling, I might add. But when the tune actually begins, that's pure Gary Holt there, right at the beginning. It's like, it just sounds like you're having a lot of fun on that song. It really does.
Oh, dude, it's all fun. I love what we do, as a band. It's still fun. The whole process of getting guitar tone in the studio is still one of my favorite things on the planet. When you're there, and you're just sitting there, like, your tone is glorious thing to behold, and you're just yes, you get excited, you're fired up, and I still get all shit-eating grins, when I've accomplished the tone I want,
So it's not just rock up with a Kemper profile and a USB and go, right, let's go.
No, we did that on Blood In, Blood Out, because we didn't have the space to like mic stuff up, and I have a really good profile, but it's profile of my modded Marshall anyway. But it takes that joy out of that journey to getting there before you ever start doing guitars. And because you're super excited when you start tracking after you've spent like, the time to get there and you're really happy with what you have, rather than just plug it in and like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
It's I definitely missed that on the last album. It's the only album I've ever done that way, and I'll never go away from the amps. Although I love my Kempers, they're an awesome tool. Something about amp, microphone, speaker that it's just equals magic.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like, look, I listen to a lot of music on my phone, digital, but I still play vinyl.
Yeah.
I
mean, I don't like listening to music with headphones, fuck headphones. I want speakers, I want to find that spot in my living room where it sounds really good on the couch, where the low end is just soaking into the cushions, and I'm just going to crank it up and sit there, headphones and metal don't go together for me.
But also cranking it in the car, that's a big test.
That's where I listen to all the mixes is in my car.
Yes.
I don't put on headphones. I'll sit there and Andy'd send me mixes, and we mix this album like 20 fucking times. And I'll burn it to disc still, because I don't want to bother syncing my phone and transfer it over. That's too much. I just throw a disc in, boom, I get in the car and I drive around and listen to it, and I crank it, and I know how it's supposed to sound in my car because that's where I listen to all my music.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same. That whole burning it to disc and putting it in the car. Because I want to see what it's going to sound like on a CD. I don't want to see what it's going to sound like if I connect my car up via the Bluetooth. It's like, exactly. No, I really want to feel it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just lazy and old school, I guess. Old, I'm that guy who like I own 1 million CDs, and I mean, I guess it's good for the artist whose disc it is, but I'll buy a disc I already own just because like I want it now, and like I'll put it into iTunes rather than go get it out of the box of CDs, put it and rip it into my laptop, then hook my phone up.
Yeah.
Sync it to iTunes. It's like, it's $9, just buy it. Helping out my fellow artists,
It's good to know someone is.
Yeah. I mean, I do it all the time. I do it when I shouldn't, come on, I've already bought the CD. I don't have to buy it twice.
Yeah, absolutely. But it must have been really cool having Rick around as well, throwing a solo down on the tune.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, he came up to the mountains and we hung out, and it was just laughs all the way through. And it's always good to have Rick around. He's fucking so excitable still,
Yeah. I still remember seeing him do a jump on stage, and thinking like, I don't know how he did that. It was just fucking weird. It's like he pulled he used to pull moves off, man.
He'd get up on the riser and jump over my head. We used to be a little more athletic on stage. I mean, all that airborne activities and coupled with youth of skateboards and BMX, the reason my knees don't work, like I literally like can't jump off a curb. It'll fucking hurt. Like my knees on a bad day, like they can't take any impact anymore. But yeah, when we were young, we used to jump off everything, and Rick, no one jumped off higher shit than Rick did,
Oh yeah, absolutely. But like I was saying earlier, the album just like I said, it sounds like it sounds like a bunch of young guys. It really does. It sounds passionate, and I think that's something that's really hard to communicate, especially with modern metal production techniques.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, on this album, I think we captured a perfect blend of modern production while still sounding like nasty.
Yeah,
and the passion is there because the band still has a passion for doing this. Like I said, when we go fast, it's not because it's expected of us. It's because we want to go fast. We want to like blast everybody fucking off to the side of the road, just in a wake of fucking smoke and dust,
Yeah, absolutely. And you can tell Zet's had more time to prepare for this album.
He was up in the mountains with us, and we had multiple studios set up. We had a demo studio, we had the actual tracking studio, and then we had a home studio at the rental house where we could work on vocal patterns and stuff. And And so, you know, he was able to like really put his stamp on it and be comfortable with the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because there's times like on some songs where I'm like, wow, I've never heard him sound like that before.
Yeah, he's pulled out a couple of new tricks, you know. I would suggest, like, you know, give me like a death metal vocal, and he'd say, well, I can't do that, I'm not a death metal singer. I said, yeah, but try it and we'll come to some new thing that you're doing, and it sounds like you, not, you know, never would expect you to sound like George Fisher, you know. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a skill that requires years of expertise to accomplish, you know. But when you try it and you get comfortable with it, you create something new that's your own, you know, with some influence from that, but not sounding like, you know, you're blatantly trying to sound like the new singer from Morbid Angel or something, you know.
yeah. But
Or
that, but
you know, and it really worked. It really worked, and it added a couple of new tricks, and he threw down some serious, supremely awesome vocals.
yeah, absolutely. And what you were saying there, what you said there, that I pick up on is that exactly the phrase you use, which is like getting comfortable with it. You know, there's
Yeah,
nothing,
I mean,
there's nothing worse being a vocalist in the studio and somebody saying, well, try it like this. So you try it like that and say, yeah, we'll do it like that. And you're like, hang on, I've done that fucking once.
yeah.
You know,
I don't even know the song yet.
yes,
And
yeah,
someone's
exactly.
quoting lines and phrases, and you're trying to match what they're telling you to do. And in the end, you're just trying to get it to where you're not reading. It doesn't sound like you're reading it off a piece of paper, you know. And
Yeah,
you know, getting it to where you're really comfortable with it, that's key. And you know, the last album he did a great job, but he was also like kind of thrown into the fire. But
yeah.
he's always been really good at like grasping things quickly. But this time we got him comfortable to the point where we could try different things outside the already established you know, vocal line that he had down and knew well, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And lyrically, are you all pitching in there? Is it mostly you? Is Zep?
Mostly me, but you know, Tom Hunting wrote, you know, The Years of Death and Dying, you know, based on a poem he was working on about, you know, just all the loss that we've all experienced. So people close to us and just heroes, you know. And Zetro wrote a couple, and I wrote the rest, and it's kind of the soundtrack to the world taking a giant shit, you know. Yeah, I mean, you know, in the background at all times while working on the album was just the fucking COVID and riots and protests and beatings and death and anger and division, you know,
Yeah,
and it just all kind of bled onto the record.
yeah. Because it's like you recorded it. You recorded it at the end of last year.
We started rehearsals for the album, Tom and I, last July, I think. And
Right.
worked all the way through it, I think, to around the end of October.
Right. Yeah. And when it's your own studio, like you say, yeah, you're not on the clock. It's not like there's a fucking meter in the corner of the studio, because there's no
Exactly.
worse feeling, is there? It's just like click,
Yeah.
click, click. Especially
Yeah.
if you're trying to get something and you can't quite nail it. If you're me, in the back of your mind, you're just thinking like, this is costing money.
Exactly. I mean, you know, I've never been a guy who wants to stay in the studio forever, because, you know, when I read about some band working on an album for like 12 months, you know, like, how can you do it? You know,
Yeah.
no way. Fuck that. I'd be like, get me the fuck out of here. And I love being in the studio. It's just, you're going to lose the spontaneity. You're going to lose the excitement.
Yeah.
Now you're just overanalyzing it. Same with bands who go, yeah, we went in the studio. We have 60 songs for them. No, you don't.
Oh, fucking overwriting. Fuck
You do
off.
not have 60 songs. You
Yes.
have
Yeah.
10 songs and you have 50
The
ideas.
ideas. Yes.
You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
you can't write this kind of music and go in and have 60 worthwhile songs. You know, out of the
Yeah.
50 that aren't songs, the 50 ideas, there's probably 20 decent riffs on it. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I've always been a believer. Just, we go in, we have the songs we're going to use, and we
Yeah.
work on it.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, we've only ever recorded an album in our lives where we had like one extra song, two extra songs, you know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work on what I feel is the stuff worth working on. You know,
well, it's got, surely it's got to be quality over quantity, surely.
yeah, it's just fuck. You know, how do I go in the studio like you know, let's work on the drums on song, you know, 37. You know? What song is that? You know,
yeah.
huh?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
remember that one. Oh, let's go and let's sit around for an hour and listen to it so I can even remember the goddamn parts, you know, like
Yeah.
that's just crazy. I mean, it works for some people, I guess, but I would, you know, I'm super OCD when it comes to riffs. I'll ignore really, really genuinely great stuff that ends up on the album and ends up favorites because I'm concentrating on something I wrote yesterday. You know, like, oh, well, I got this thing here. And on this album, it's no different. Some of my favorite songs were like the last to be completed because, and they were some of the first to be written, you know, like Prescribing Horror. I had that whole song demoed in GarageBand. That was like the oldest song on the album, and I almost ignored it completely. And then Tom said, let's revisit that. And we played with the arrangement a little. And we even kept some of the tracks from my demo, you know, the little melody part in the middle and the clean guitars were all saved. We didn't feel the need to re-record them. But that's me like not looking back far, you know, and I'm talking not looking back into 60 songs. I'm talking about a couple back. You know?
Yeah. And it's, sometimes though as well, you do nail stuff on a demo that you can't recreate on an album. It's like,
exactly. And like the melody section of that song, for instance, I played around with all these like weird harmonies that almost shouldn't work, but they did, and it's very haunting. And you know, and played around with the little plugins and found these really cool effects that I dicked around on forever, you know, and like, and when we listened to it, like, you know, if I re-recorded it, it's never going to sound that cool.
Yeah.
So we just like, let's just import those and the clean, you know, there's even one slight misnote on the intro to it, but you know, it was just like, it just had a vibe, you know, just didn't want to play with it.
Well, yeah, as you were saying earlier about being old school, for me, yeah, one note, big deal. It's about the vibe. It's about the vibe of the whole piece. Yeah, without a doubt. And putting those, you know, putting those songs together from a demo, it's funny that you should mention that particular song, because when I first heard it, I was thinking, I wonder if any of this was kind of meant for Slayer at all.
No, I never wrote a single lick riff for Slayer ever. Not one, you know.
Right.
I knew going into Repentless that, you know, Carrie was, you know, writing the album, and I never wrote anything and said, here, this is that, that's the, you know, here you go. I was writing Blood In, Blood Out at the time, you know, those albums were released quite close to each other.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so, you know, I was still working Exodus the whole time way through, you know.
Yeah, and it's kind of this is going to be the first time for quite a while that you're actually going to be able to get out and full on tour the Exodus album as well, isn't it?
Maybe
yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's not jump the gun.
Yeah, I hope so. I can't wait. I mean, just doing the Bass Strikes Back tour in Europe and the UK was phenomenal. I had never had so much fun. It was a blast. I can't wait to be back.
Oh man, no, I mean that was an awesome night. That was, and it's just a, you know, a great collection of bands, phenomenal performances. It was so much fun. And hopefully you guys are going to come back over here. But it's like everything is just getting postponed, cancelled, postponed. And I, you know, I'm just wondering when we're actually going to hit a time where, you know, this shit doesn't get postponed. But I understand it. I mean, we played 6 dates as a 4-piece because Paul, our guitarist, got COVID really bad. And all of a sudden, shit like that makes you go, right, okay, if one of us gets COVID, then we got to cancel the dates.
Yeah, so that's why, you know, we postponed the tour here in the States. You know, we'd be like well into this tour, almost to the end, but you know, we postponed it because, you know, for a few things. It gives Tom more time to be back 100%, Tom's also immunocompromised still a little bit, so it's
Yeah,
also
yeah,
not necessarily the safest environment for Tom. And number two, we want to like to achieve some sense of normalcy and be able to hang out with each other and not have to tour in a bubble, and we're hoping by the spring, things will be back to normal and the COVID rates will drop and we could have the fun we're used to having.
yeah. I mean, look, we played Bloodstock. It's outdoors. It was like there'd never been a pandemic. It was great, and everyone's because it's outdoors. And then when you go back to playing shows indoors, it's kind of like it's not quite the same.
Yeah, and basically, also it came down to like we made the choice to like not make money rather than possibly owe a lot of money.
Yeah, there is definitely
if we're out on
that.
tour and like I get COVID or Zetro does or Mark Osegueda or Chuck Billy or something.
Yeah.
And the tour's over.
Yeah.
We can't sit there in some hotel in the middle of nowhere for 10 days.
Basically,
the tour's over. And then we're sitting on a trailer full of merchandise for dates that are no longer accurate.
Yeah.
And they're basically shop rags now. You're selling them for discounts for like, just as souvenirs at that point. And you end up like owing tons of money, like bands like ourselves, we do okay on tour, but we make most of our take home money in those last couple of weeks. Because the first part of the tour for all of us is like paying off the tour itself. And then, all right, now we're like starting to make some money to take home. And if you lose those last couple of weeks, you're fucking going home broke or in debt.
Yeah. Well, without a doubt, if you're a headline European band and you're doing kind of Brixton and Canopy level down, if you take on like a 6-week European tour and you get one or more than one member gets COVID, you're fucked, and essentially you can end up bankrupt.
Yeah, you're fucked. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so we chose like I talked to Chuck, and Chuck talked to Mark Osegueda, and we all talked to each other and just said, as bad as it sucks, it's best for us to wait.
Yeah. It has to be.
It's the first time COVID affected Exodus negatively. When we worked on the album, I mean, aside from getting sick, when we came home from the European tour, our goal was to work on an album. We didn't have a summer festival tour booked. We weren't going to. We were going to make an album. And then Tom got cancer. So, we pushed the album back. And if everything had worked out in the end, we'd be on tour right at the release of the record, perfect for the launch. This was the first time it worked against us.
Yeah. But better stay, stay home safe than, like you say, lose a shitload of money.
Absolutely.
And also, especially when there's more things to consider, when it's not just your band, there's a bunch of you. You're all in it together. You're all a pull on that bill.
Yeah. I mean, and Will Carroll, he was on a ventilator from COVID. I got it really bad, not hospitalization level, but close to it. I mean, I lost 16 pounds in 11 days. I mean, I wish I could do that at will.
Same thing happened to Paul. Yeah,
I got a video shoot next week. Let me drop 10 pounds here.
Yeah. I've got a video shoot in 3 weeks. Quick, give me COVID.
Yeah. Let me fucking summon some weight loss here. Let me lose that belly. It was shitty.
Yeah, but it's also given you time to do a lot of work at home. I've been watching you. I've been watching you on Instagram. You've been chopping trees and fucking all sorts.
That's the downside of living in the hills, man. The work never fucking stops. I mean, I'm looking outside and like we had a little storm, and the amount of leaves when you're in the forest that you just got to like deal with, and like get prepared for some burn piles,
Yeah. Well, I was reading about the tree you lost, and and exactly the same here. A massive tree, looked absolutely fine, went over in a storm, crushed a van, nearly took out a house. And then, and so it's like, right, we better check all of the trees. And there's like 2 or 3 of them. It was like, yep, they got to go as well.
And mine fell with that. It wasn't even a storm. Beautiful day out, you know, it was fucking
Wow.
spring, you know, and just all of a sudden the sound I didn't recognize, you know, like
Shit.
cutting through air. And I felt something and I looked out my window and all I saw was a tree.
Shit.
Well, wrecked the deck, didn't wreck the house, but I got it all fixed. And yeah, I had to remove some other possible threats, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. It's like, if you have one go over, if you get rid of the threats as well, it's like, well, actually that's a kind of positive thing. Because you lose out. I mean, we have a song on the last album we did. We had a song called "Within the Woods" on it, and producer Jace went outside the studio and recorded some trees to get some tree sounds, and the main tree fucking went down in a storm, just missed the studio. Wow. And it was just like, yeah, shit. If that had taken it out, that's like basically right. It's taken everything. It's taken the studio, it's taken the album, you name it.
It's fucking expensive living in a place like this, you know, because I'm not that chainsaw adept, you know. I have a chainsaw. I have a really good one, but you know, I kind of like try to stay away from fucking chainsaws. So I had some tree people come in and deal with it, and you know, fucking cost me a fucking fortune. You know, like, I'm not working and I'm spending thousands having these trees removed. But one of them, if it fell, it was so big it would have cut the house in half. Like gone. Yeah.
That's an investment, isn't it? Not having your house cut in half.
I mean, it's just what you got to do, but also, you know, I have the benefits. I have, you know, on this whole hill, there's like 5 people who live on it, and it's completely quiet. And I'm surrounded by deer and wild turkey and hawks and lizards. You know, it's like awesome. I love it.
Yeah, man.
Especially in the summer, the lizards are all around like cockroaches. It's so rad.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That is awesome. Well, look, I've got some subscriber questions for you.
Sure thing.
So bear with me. Let's get these fired up. Right. First question. Here we go. Right, bear with me 1 second. Fucking hell. Organized, aren't I? Here we go. Where are we? Right. Okay, so it might help if I hadn't turned the internet off while I was while I was interviewing you, because I didn't want any distractions.
No worries.
Right, where are you? There you go. So here we go. These are right, here we go. Right. What did Gary learn? Sorry, this is from Paul Hutchings. And Paul would like to ask, what did Gary learn from his time with Slayer?
You know, I learned a lot about the production aspect of things. You know, I mean, you know, I'm playing thrash metal. I've been playing thrash metal my whole life. But what I learned really was just how like a top flight operation like that operates and how it runs like smoothly like that. And so, you know, I try to take some of that with me to Exodus. I mean, we're obviously, you know, not fucking traveling with semis full of shit, but you know, you learn how to make the tour run very smooth.
Yeah, that last tour, man. I was at the Wembley show, and you know, that was fucking phenomenal. Right up there with one of the best Slayer shows that that I've seen.
It was something I'll never forget.
Yeah. Yeah, well, believe you me, so said everybody in the crowd.
Yeah, it was good, man.
Walking away. I'll tell you what was weird, because you won't have experienced this. Walking away from a Slayer show in virtual silence. It was like coming away from a mass funeral.
Yeah, it probably was, you know, I mean,
yeah,
certainly.
I mean, me and my best friend, first time we saw Slayer together was like, we must have been 17. And we're walking away from that show, and we're both just kind of quiet, and he just kind of says under his breath, like, I can't believe we're never going to do this again.
Yeah,
it's just
kind of nuts.
very,
If
very
you look
strange.
at the photo, our last photo we did together was on our way to the stage at the final show. We look like we're on our way to our own funeral. We look very grim and like nervous, and just like, you could see it that these are guys marching their own doom.
Yeah, like almost like sort of going over the top, out the trenches, and like, this might be the last.
Yeah. We look like we're on the front lines getting off the boats at fucking Normandy.
Yeah, yeah.
Cannot be in that one way in the back. Kind of fucked up.
Absolutely.
We
Well,
look scared almost.
well, I'll search that picture out, and I'll try and add it to the media for the podcast.
I know I posted it before on Instagram. It's there.
I'll dig it out.
Yeah.
Paul
With
goes
the
on.
caption that we look like we're going to our own funeral.
Oh well, that's kind of helpful, yeah. He also goes on to say, what motivates you to write after so many years on the merry-go-round?
I love writing riffs. Writing riffs is what I do. I'll write riffs when I'm 80.
Yeah.
I still love the sound of a crunchy guitar,
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, he'd like to know which current bands, if any, excite you.
Which current bands excite me? Rest in peace, Riley. Power Trip certainly excite me. I'm curious. I'm eager to see where they go next. It's such a tragic loss. There's a lot of bands like, out there like Lost Society or Super Killer, and the guitar player is insane. He's so good. Like, wow, that kid is fucking shredding,
Yeah.
And, guitar players excite me. I love looking on Instagram and seeing 15-year-old kids, 15-year-old girls just ripping 8-string guitar sugar riffs. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And it gives me hope for the future of heavy metal, that there's a whole nother generation that is embracing the guitar after I think it almost skipped a generation or two,
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's like seeing kids like practicing their triplets and stuff like that. You're just like,
oh, you're doing
this is so cool. Yeah,
fucking awesome.
Yeah. Right. Well, I've got a question from Mark Pensome. So 35 odd years of coming up with sick riffs. If you had to put one out there to be in the Thrash Hall of Fame entry for Gary Holt, which one would you pick?
Main riff for Impact is Imminent. Still my favorite riff I've ever written to this day. I wish I had it back. Impact is Imminent is an album that's got some of the best riffs we ever wrote. The album has its flaws. Timing was also not in its favor, but that riff is just my favorite riff I've ever written. It's string skipping, it's crushing, it's doing things no one was doing yet at that time. That riff, and it's cool. I remember when I wrote it, Rick Hunolt looked at it and he's like, man, that riff's even cool watching someone play it because the hands look really good. Sometimes a heavy riff, your hand's not doing anything, but yeah, it's a badass riff and it's my favorite. That's my number one riff I ever wrote.
Well, thank you for that. And that's just reminded me Kev and I turned up in the studio when you were recording that. You came over to London, didn't you?
No, that was for Force of Habit.
Oh shit, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Shit, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Force of Habit, the Let's Spend Everything album.
Yeah, we're on a major label. We have so much money to spend.
Yeah, let's spend it all. Let's fly to England and ship all this equipment. Half of it we didn't use, and let's live in a flat in England and give each other some per diem. It was fun, and there's a lot of shit that I've grown to really appreciate on that album. But it was a good time. We were like the house power drinkers at this Australian pub called O. Henry's, and it was right down the street from our flat, and we spent like 4 weeks drinking in that place.
They must have really missed you when you left.
They made us sweatshirts that said staff power drinker on it. So,
Brilliant, brilliant. Right. Well, next up, got some questions from Stephen Smith. He's got 3 questions, and his first question is: what is Gary's after-show routine? What does he do to take care of himself to wind down while the gig adrenaline is wearing off?
Well, it used to be wind down with a couple of drinks, but I don't do that anymore. But I don't have a great after show ritual. After the show, I go and sit down, have some dinner.
Yeah.
Before the show, I have way more rituals, I do a good deal of stretching. I have to, my back and all that. I warm up for an hour straight, so I've already put in a show before a show.
Yeah.
And just get prepared, get mentally psyched. After the show, the work's done. I'm just, sitting in a chair,
Yeah.
Out.
Cool. His follow-up question is, what books do you read or TV shows do you watch when you're on the road?
When I'm on tour, I don't travel with a whole lot of books because, just trying to travel light, so and I don't have a Kindle or any of that kind of shit. I need to get one, but I do tend to watch a lot of stupid ass reality TV.
so I've seen, yeah.
90 Day Fiance, all the different versions, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and I just sit and yell at the TV the whole time. You stupid fucking dumbass, God, I hate you. I hate that one. Just doing everything short of throwing stuff at the TV. But I'll always download my favorite movies, because I know I'll go to sleep at 10 minutes in because I've seen them so many times. It's kind of like my sleeping aid, like Braveheart. It's like my favorite movie, but I've seen it 1,000 fucking times. I know every word of dialogue. If I can't sleep, in the middle of the night in my bunk, I'll throw Braveheart on or Gladiator, and I'm back asleep in 10 minutes. So.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, stuff like that. Anything involving swords,
Cool. And his final question: do you ever have time to check out normal places that that people visit when they're in big cities like London, Paris, etc.?
I do. I try to now. I mean, we don't ever have a lot of days off in Exodus. In Slayer, I had tons, but also during a great deal of my Slayer run, my back problems are really bad. And so I had to stay off my feet, so, I was playing several years of Slayer and just total agonizing pain with my back. I've had 3 epidurals, And, so I wouldn't go walk around because it hurt, like being on my feet too much. You get the sciatica and your whole hip just aches.
Yeah.
And but over the last couple of years of Slayer, I had some really good back years, those last couple. So I try, now that I'm older, I want to appreciate the things I never took the time to look at before because I was nursing a hangover or whatever.
Yeah. And also, I guess there's like, I mean, certainly the way I look at it is like, I don't know if I'll ever be back in this place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, God, when I was last on tour in Europe with Slayer and we were flying around from show to show, sometimes you get off the bus and you have to fly because it's a long drive. And God, I don't ever want to see another airport again. Now I'm like, please, I want to fly somewhere. I can't wait. I hate making videos, and I had so much fun making one this weekend because I was with my bandmates. It was awesome.
And also, it's some kind of normal, isn't it? It's something that it's like,
it was
holy shit.
Little taste of normal.
Yeah, it means a lot. Well, I got a final question up here from Robert Osborne, and we kind of covered this, but he's got something to add. Is like, how are you coping without alcohol? But also, do you think you're going to find it harder when you start going on tour?
No, not at all. I mean, it doesn't mean I have a more solid willpower than anyone else, but I don't crave or feel any desire for alcohol. I'm a guy who, when he quits something, he just quits it and he's just done with it. And I'll hang out with the other bandmates, and I had dinner twice over the weekend, and Lee's having real beers and I'm having Heineken 0.0s. And I never I want one of what he's got, doesn't appeal to me anymore.
Well, especially if it's, as you were saying earlier, especially if it's just becoming something that you don't enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. It's a taste of beer that I like, and I found there's really great alcohol-free beers out there nowadays, like really good. You know,
That,
and
that's awesome. Was there a particular was there any particular incident or something that happened where you went, right, okay, fuck it, this is enough, or was
I
it
was just getting miserable at
just
home, just sitting there and going into dark places and making my wife a little bit miserable too, because she was stuck here with me, you know, and just got kind of like it was a wake up call of what might happen. You know, I wasn't an alcoholic, but it's like, what happens if the way I'm drinking now and I go out on tour? Because some days at home, I wouldn't drink at all. I wasn't drinking daily. Some days I'd have 1 beer, 2 beers. Some days I'd have 13. You know,
right?
some days I'd drink all the beer I had and then like, oh, look, some people left some White Claw here from the party. And I mocked people who drink White Claw, and I drank every last one of the White Claws too. And then I wouldn't drink. Then I'd quit. I wouldn't drink for, you know, a couple of weeks, and then I'd fall right back into it. And I was more worried about the possibility of what was going to happen if I don't stop now. It might
Yeah,
become hard to stop.
yeah, yeah. And so why wait till that stage and just
I mean, when we
kick it down?
recorded the album, you know, like, you know, we work all day, but as soon as the work was done, I start popping beers. And early in the recording and the gathering of the to make the record, Tom Hunting goes, man, your beer consumption is impressive. Like, you know, because I'd look absolutely normal and I'm just pounding beers down, but I was also getting fat and fucking bloated looking and wasn't happy, you know. So I'm definitely a lot happier now, and you know, I want to be around for my family.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also, it's kind of one of those things that when you hear it, it's like it kind of sticks with you, doesn't it? Because it clearly has. What Tom said
Yeah,
is kind of stuck with you. Because it's like when initially you think that's a compliment, and then it's like when it kind of sticks in your head, and you
yeah,
think, actually, that's not a compliment.
yeah. I shouldn't be impressing people with how much alcohol I can consume.
Yeah, yeah. That's not impressive.
No, it's kind of bad.
Yeah. Well,
But you
look,
know,
man.
at that time, I was so happy to be up writing music and stuff at night. You know, where it's summer, we're in the way in the mountains, and so yeah, we barbecue and drink beer and. But yeah, it was time to get off the ride.
It sounds like such an idyllic way to record an album. I mean, it
Yeah, I mean,
sounds
well,
like ideal.
I always say that Queen, Deep Purple, they had Lake Geneva, we have Lake Almanor. That's how those guys did albums. You know, they'd gather and build a
Yeah,
studio and you know, beautiful fucking paradise, and that's what we try to do. You know, and make it comfortable and fun. Summer camp.
yeah. And there's that word again, fun, which
Yeah,
is
fun. Should be
that's what.
fun.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like, yeah, it's a job. Everyone has jobs, but if you can make your job fun and your job is fun, then
Yep,
it feels like less of a job.
exactly.
Exactly. Well, look, man, it's been awesome to chat. It's awesome to see you again.
My pleasure, man.
I'm so glad to hear all of these positive developments in the Exodus camp and with yourself as well. It's awesome. It really is awesome.
Well, thank you so much, man.
No worries, and congrats on the album. I mean, it's like when I first heard it, I was like, "Ooh, okay." I've heard the singles, but I wasn't expecting this. And then
Yeah, you
like,
know, I mean, I love every song on the record, but people go, "Wow, if this is like, you know, what the album's like, you know, I'm so stoked." And I'd say, "You ain't heard shit yet, dude."
and we
When you hear the title track, it's just a fucking sonic assault. It's just fucking take people down, you know.
Oh, without a doubt. The first time I heard that, yeah, I think, yeah, it's a face ripper. It's a face
Yeah,
ripper,
sure.
and yeah, it's just phenomenal, man. Absolutely phenomenal. Really pleased for you, and
Thank you.
I just hope you get to tour it as soon as possible.
Yeah, I know. I hope to see you soon.
Hope to see you soon, man. Take care.
All right, man. Take care. I'll see you later.
See you, dude.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.